Welcome back. This time we're talking about Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, directed by Tim Burton and based on the novel by Ransom Riggs. Now I have to say up front, I'm a pretty big fan of young adult literature, whether it's the popular Harry Potter series or something a little less well-known like Diane Duane's Young Wizard series. And Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is a book that's always interested me, but for whatever reason I never got around to reading. So when I heard that Tim Burton was directing the adaptation, it just felt like it was a perfect marriage, and that seemed to be proven true when I got to see the first trailers. And now having actually seen the movie, I have to say I was right, because this movie is thoroughly enjoyable. I enjoyed it pretty much from start to finish. It has an interesting story, intriguing and peculiar characters, and managed to find just the right balance between computer-generated effects and real-world settings. The story focuses on a teenager named Jake, played by Asa Butterfield. After a personal tragedy, he sets out to find more information about his grandfather's younger days, especially the years that he spent at this children's home during World War II. This ultimately sends him to Wales, where he encounters Miss Peregrine, played by Eva Green, and the peculiar children, including one in particular named Emma, played by Purnell, whose ability is to control air. And while he's there, he learns two things. First is that both he and his grandfather have more in connection with these children than he ever realized. And two is that there are people out there hunting these children down for a particular reason. And that's really all I want to give away about the story, because they do go out of their way to keep certain things secret until absolutely necessary. Although it does play a little coy at not revealing certain facts at certain times, overall the story plays out at a pretty nice pace, and I was less upset with that than I would normally be. And the resulting movie is really a lot of fun, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. Honestly, a lot more than I really thought I might. Tim Burton as a director has been pretty hit or miss lately, and more miss than hit. Although he seemed to find his balance again with Big Eyes. And although this film's story is definitely a lot more outlandish than that one's, it does overall feel a lot more subdued and almost subtle compared to a lot of Burton's recent films like Alice in Wonderland and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. There are a decent number of special effects, especially once we meet the monsters and then as we get into the third act and it ramps up the action. But we're never in a situation like with Alice in Wonderland where basically everything is CG. The characters are definitely peculiar and have strange and unusual abilities, but the world around them never feels fake. And that realism of the surrounding world is what grounds the story and really what makes it work in the end and gets us to buy into these characters, no matter how strange they are. Now, parental warnings are always a murky ground because every kid is different and every parent is different. But I have to say, for an adaptation of a young adult book, there's some really intense things going on, especially once we learn what the monsters are after and how they go about it. It's frankly a little disturbing. There's one scene in particular that could have been even more grotesque than it was, and it felt like they purposely dialed back the realism on some of the special effects. So the scene played off, I don't want to say for humor, but it's not as disturbing as it might have been if they'd gone for straight up realism. So for parents out there, definitely keep in mind the PG-13 rating. As I said, it's pretty hard to give a blanket warning when pretty much every kid is different. I will say that this movie's probably in line with the later Harry Potter movies as far as content and just scary imagery. But overall, again, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I really had a great time with it. I actually watched it with a good friend of mine, and he thoroughly enjoyed it as well. So if you're looking for something a little different, a little weird, a little Burton, and don't mind that it's probably not the best film for younger children, this is definitely one I can recommend. Again, I enjoyed it, and I think you probably will as well. So if you've seen Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, what do you think of it? And if you've read the book, I have no idea how much they changed from book to movie. Did you like the changes, hate them? Let me know. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.